Happy Friday and welcome back to the cave, the Guillén cave. Being Guillén is back here on La Vida Baseball. What's up, One?
It's the weekend is here. We're ready to go. Big Memorial Day weekend for everybody. I know it's a 3-day weekend for some people. For some people, other people, it's 4-day weekend. So good time to go out and golf. Chicago's a little weird. A lot of rain today. And it's supposed to be nice, but hopefully Sunday and Monday, 75, 80, get the grill going, watch some baseball.
I want to bring up something real quick. So 2 days ago, you're a little sad because you could have been $100,000 richer. You basically guessed on 17 games, and you lost by one game, a 16-game parlay.
So I always bet like $20 to $30 a day, and then whatever's remaining, whether that be $5, $8, whatever, I'll go through a list of MLB and I'll take money line, and I'll just click like who I like. I see the starting pitchers. I'm like, I like this. 2 days ago, I missed a 17-game parlay. The Indians lost to the Tigers, and I was literally sick.
It was a 1-0 game.
It was a 1-0 game. I was sick to my stomach because on those big parlays, FanDuel doesn't give you the option to cash out. Because if I would have seen the cash out for 20, I would have seen the cash out for $5,000. I would have taken it. I would have won $99,000 on a 17-game parlay, which leads me to believe, why can't I get lucky and hit one of those parlays?
You know what? It's
only $5.
It's like playing the lotto. Okay?
Literally, I have a better chance of winning one of these parlays than I do the lotto. Because at least at these games, we have a little idea of like, okay, this guy's going. Yesterday, 2 days ago, McKenzie's going for him. Tigers, I don't know what the hell happened. They scored 1 run, and I'm thinking the Indians will be able to get him. Nothing. But from now on, I'm going to maybe not go into the 17-game route, but I'm going to stick around the 12. Area. I can hit.
I got good advice. You should call Adivino.
Oh, Adivino, we're in his cave right now. Just remember, whenever you don't hit, it's never his fault.
Yeah, of course. So doing it for the gram, obviously Ozzie Guillén is not here. No, we did not kick him off the show. He's actually in Florida watching art. We didn't go on the trip because we don't mind the art of bullfighting or that world. We're just not huge fans of it. It's an art exhibit of the whole world of like the music, the clothes. It's in Miami. It's for one of his best friends.
I think bullfighting is an acquired taste. Something that
Ken Bennett.
Yeah, it's something that we grew up not with, but my dad would take us to some bullfights. Obviously, when you're that young, you don't really have a choice to what you go to. He would take us. We'd see. I've been in Europe to a couple bullfights. It's an acquired taste. It's not something that I don't see myself going to many bullfights in my life.
Something that you go see once, and it's like the circus. You go it, you see it,
like a Cirque du Soleil.
But I'm saying he's a huge fan. But he's out there in Florida right now supporting. Which again, if it would be anything else, we'd probably be there with him. But he cannot be with us, and obviously he's had a busy week, obviously with all the drama and all the highlights. But we will be giving you guys updates on what the OG is doing. But we do have some information on him on doing it for the gram. This week, Ozzie was, dressed up.
Okay.
So the best part of this picture, so this is supposed to be
Yohan
Moncada getaway day, and Ozzie's supposed to be dressed in a costume. Okay, but he owns all these clothes.
That's what people don't get. He never bought this stuff anywhere. He owns, I believe those are pink pants.
He owns those. He has a couple of those.
He owns pink pants. That's a Dolce & Gabbana belt he owns. He owns the jewelry on his neck, and he owns, obviously, the 3 rings that he won. But I don't know if he nailed it with the different look from Moncada. But if anyone remembers the late Hector Camacho, the boxer, that's what he looks like. And his hair, or he looks like he looks like the broke version of John Travolta in Grease Lightning. He looks like, and my mom is not Olivia Newton-John. And by the way, the top that he has on
is mesh,
and it's also see-through. He used to wear this top. Man,
to the stadium.
He used to wear this see-through top. It's a see-through black top, so you can see his nipples.
Hopefully, it wasn't cold in Chicago on that day.
And he'd wear them with it was like late '80s, early '90s. Versace was really in. He'd wear them with pants and men sandals.
So Versace probably bought a house with Ozzie Guillén's money in the 80s. And it'd be funny because when we were getting into high school, he's like, hey, do you want to try to give clothes away? And
I'm like, those are purple pants.
Those are purple pants.
Literally, you have to be thin. I don't even think I can fit into them right now. I don't think my dad can either, but it's funny because the Capote store that he got these pants from, they tweeted at him, great pants. And I'm like, guy, I don't think anyone's wearing bright pink pants.
So the part that I loved about the mesh shirt is that I can imagine Ozzy walking in 1980s, you know, like him and Val Calderon. They all got a mesh shirt on.
Well,
if I'm the starting pitcher, I'm like, there's no way a guy with a mesh shirt is getting it.
You know what? Nowadays, you expect anything. I saw your mean Mercedes the other day. He was wearing a Flavor Flav size pendant. I think that this guy, every time the MLB check comes in every 2 weeks, he gets a bigger chain.
So this is a part, though, where people are talking about change the game. Players have always been eccentric.
Yes.
Whatever the style is, and I think I'm going to start like a little special.
Barry used to wear the cross.
Bringing back, Barry Bonds had the cross, you know, guys have had like crazy hair, like the Afro era.
The 80s were all about the gold.
The gold, like a lot of gold chains. So I think that whatever the style is, like when we were playing baseball.
In the 90s, it was the earrings.
No, and then the big pants. And the big pants. It was like the bigger the pants you had, the cooler that you were. But again, that was doing it for the gram. And then we got a very rare picture. And this fan, okay, who was on Twitter, we actually need to get his information. He has his contact. We need to send this guy something.
Yeah, because last week, that's why I love all our fans here being Guillén. I sent out a challenge. If anyone can find a picture, and I'm a little upset that I couldn't find this. If I can find a picture of my dad in an Expos uniform that I'd love to put on the show, and I have his name, and I'm going to send him a DM and say thank you for you guys watching us. They found this picture, and this is from 2001. This might be the only picture of my dad in an Expos uniform.
Number one, they didn't take a lot of pictures of Expos players back then, and then obviously not third base coach, bench coaches.
Yeah,
they just really didn't do that.
But you know, there's a lot of guys in there. You can see that team. You know, you got Vladimir Guerrero, Orlando Cabrera, Jose Vidro, Hugo Urbina, a young Vladdy was around that team.
Javi
Vasquez, team with
Wilkerson.
talent. Brad Wilkerson. So this team, if you can see in the bottom right, that's Ozzy right there. That was his first coaching job. That led to World Series, that led to all this.
Which leads to a story that we can share long ago. We were there in Montreal when the Montreal mix-up, just like they call it in wrestling, when the city of Montreal was robbed by basically the ownership, and they basically took the biggest amount of ownership. There's a book about it, and then they made it into the Marlins. And Major League Baseball sat back and said, like, well, the owners.
And now with everything that's going on, they're trying to move Oakland. I'm not a big fan of Oakland. I've been many times. I think the Coliseum is what it is. Montreal, on the other hand, is probably, if you ask every MLB guy that was around back then, for many reasons, wink, wink, Montreal, Canada is a hidden gem of a baseball city. Every player loves Montreal. This guy right here
loved Montreal.
Enjoyed Montreal very much. He was 16. Weren't you 16?
16, 17.
He was 16 years old, 17 years old. In Canada, they're very lenient with how people have fun.
It's like hockey age.
Yeah.
You know what? It was a perfect setup.
It's like you're old enough to see over the bar. You can have a beer.
By the way, so it's like By the way, it's funny because the team was bad. So every opponent's like, great city, bad team. Like, we can do whatever we want.
Right, and every team that would come in there, the Braves, Andrew, Chipper, everyone was partying like crazy. They beat the Expos 2 out of 3, and then go ahead. But everyone loved being in Montreal. I wish they could get a team back. I know that we only have one team now north of the border, and still the Blue Jays are in Dunedin. But Vegas, we cool to see. I don't think Oakland's going to last out there in Oakland.
I don't want Portland. Never been to Nashville, and I really want Vegas. So we'll do more on the digging deep. I know Billy's out there. He's been reported to go visiting cities. Probably a great situation. Like, you're bringing a city to a team. Like, they're bringing out everything.
No, they're whining and dining.
They're whining and dining you. So again, they've been asking to stay in Oakland, but again,
thank you for the picture. Very great.
But thank you for the picture. But one of the segments today is in sports today. Everyone talks about, is it a young man's sport? Well, the way that I look at it is, it's like the old are actually looking young. Okay, Phil Mickelson wins the PGA at the age of 50. Okay, Tom Brady wins a Super Bowl at the age of 43. LeBron James, who is 35 but looks 60 and acts 75, he's also a champ.
I think LeBron doesn't have
the
hair.
In baseball, again, you got Pujols, you got Miggy. And the reason I wanted to talk about this, okay, is everyone talks about the age of getting older. Like, everyone looks at those guys and is making fun of them, okay? I still put on a uniform on the weekends, okay? And last weekend, and I'm not saying I work out as hard as them, but again, when you look at Miggy and Albert, they're not Cristiano Ronaldo. They're not in great, like, physical specimen shape. But just the ability, okay, just by playing 7-inning games, putting the uniform on, going out there, warming up, doing all that, your body the next day, you're just naturally sore, okay? You're just naturally tired. So for the fact that these gentlemen are doing this at this level, at their age, the respect that I have for Albert and Miguel is actually more now than it was when they were younger, because, man, it gets harder as you get older.
Yeah, you know what? Father Time is undefeated, and what Phil did is amazing. We all play golf or try to play golf. The skill to be able to compete with these guys, to be able to hit 345, 350 yards. Phil's put the time in. He's done it. LeBron takes care of his body like crazy. Cristiano Ronaldo's still going in the Serie A. Miguel and Albert Pujols, and it's going to sound weird, but I believe that in baseball, without steroids, it's a lot harder to compete at that age than it is those other sports. Why? Baseball is a weird skill game. I don't know how to explain it.
Well, now I think it's even harder now because the guys throw so hard.
That's what I'm saying. I'm like, now, like, these guys are facing like 95, 96, 97, 99, 99, 99. Albert and Miguel have never when they were really, really young, they were in good shape. In order for you to be in tip-top shape, it takes a lot of work. And I don't think baseball players are really known for being gym rats or being guys that are like, like a Ronaldo, physical specimen. Baseball's more of a skill game. You get older, everything starts speeding up on you. Yeah. Even when you're out there in the weekends, like you said, everything's speeding up on you. We're older, hangovers last longer, everything hurts. Like, if you make a bad movement right now when he gets up from his chair, he could pull something. He could legit pull something.
Also the bat speed drops down. So the part that people, and again,
getting old.
Not to talk bad about Hank Aaron, again, rest in peace, the legend. There was guys back in the day. This is why I think baseball's gotten harder. They're playing to like 45 years old. These guys are being consistent. When I interviewed Miguel, and you can check it out on La Vida Baseball on our YouTube page, before the interview we were talking, I was like, Miguel, tell me about the hitting and like how it's changed. And we're talking like baseball, and he goes, Ozzy, there's no easy pitchers now. And what Miguel was telling me by saying that is that back in 10 years, 20 years ago, you might get a guy, starter's pretty good, and then you get like a middle of a road type pitchers that those are the guys like low 80s that you're like,
you can feast off.
Yeah, you can feast off of them. I'm gonna hit like now what we call position players. You got like a little type of position player going mid game, and then you got the crazy closer. Now you want to get to the closer unless you're playing the Yankees, but you want to get to the closer. Like for the White Sox, everyone's like, oh, we hope we get Hendricks because everyone before him is throwing gas. So you're either gonna get walked, which is the reason I think walks have increased. But I think that taking a guy deep, okay, and hitting 30 home runs when you're 42, 43, that's why I think Nelson's in such a great
guys are working out harder than they ever have. That's why Nelson Cruz is still La Vida Baseball posts stuff about him all the time. Guys work out harder. They take care of their bodies more. This isn't the 80s and 90s. Guys finish their season, and they're right back in the gym, right back a week or two after. Baseball is a tough sport. Guys are only getting stronger. That means that I wouldn't be surprised in like 2 or 3 years you see a guy throwing 105. Like,
no. By the way, Noah Syndergaard's doing it. He's hurt again, but he's throwing. He's throwing.
That is not normal for the human body.
The human body, and that's to
be able to resist that.
And again,
and that's why you see guys like guys with good mechanics that don't throw so hard and don't have such herky jerky deliveries and motions. That's why those guys last longer. That's why when you see a guy swinging in baseball, Tatis or whoever it is, if you have Javier Baez scares the living daylights out of me. He's so violent with his swings that it's like feast or famine. Like, it's either a home run or strikeout. You have to be guys that are more in control. They take care of their bodies. We just hope.
Who's your oldest favorite player? The guy who you're like, this guy produced the most at such an older age?
Barry Bonds. Well, Barry Bonds made a mockery of the game because he was playing.
He was getting better as he got older.
Barry was opposite. He was getting better as he got older. He hit 73.
Well, but I think that the getting better as you got older in baseball Okay. And again, I'm not saying these guys are doing anything illegal, but the game changed. Guys are getting paid now at 33, 34. Benito Santiago coming out like at 38, 39. It was like Nelson Cruz.
My dad retired at 30, and he thought he was ancient.
By the way, they thought he was ancient. But I'm saying, I think that I've seen personally, I'm talking normal numbers. I'm very impressed with Nelson Cruz does day in and day out, because he was a guy that was a late bloomer, but every single year he's gone there, that if they give him the at-bats, he's hit the home run.
Jose Abreu, for me,
is
impressive because he looks like a fragile
80-year-old
man. Like when you see him walk and whatever, but when you see him on the bases and he's hitting, he's very.
How about Harold Baines though?
But also Harold
Baines was hitting at 42, 43 years old, still able to produce. Again, that's the DH Edgar Martinez. But again,
even Frank years,
and that's why I love the DH. And again, this is something that's changing because now they want to use the DH as like another position player.
Right, and the DH was always the spot that you can like, I'll DH this guy because of Big Papi, because it's going to make his career
by
longer.
the way, if Big Papi, there's no DH. Big Papi plays in the big leagues 3 years. I think that with his body type, the issue that he had with his feet, Big Papi doesn't retire because his bat's slowing down. He just couldn't stand on his feet. He was, he's got bad feet.
And you look at Big Papi walk, and you're like, this guy is struggling to get around.
You're like, get him a deal for the shoe. Then he has one, I think.
Or a couple ingrown toenails.
No, what I'm saying, what's the name of the shoe company?
Which one?
The one he's got Skechers.
Yeah. I mean, honestly, I think we take our stars for granted, but what Tom Brady and all those guys doing is unbelievable.
And it's awesome to watch because I love rooting. Again, Tom Brady, first time I saw Tom Brady play like in a Super Bowl, I was like in high school. I got kids now. Like I saw Tom Brady, like Tom Brady could outlive like my college life. Like I saw Tom Brady blacked out in college. I saw Tom Brady's last Super Bowl with both my kids in the lap. Like Tom Brady is
something that you respect because you see these guys, even boxers, you do something that good at that elite level, the wear and tear that it takes on your body, and sports are so physically demanding at that elite level. Unbelievable job. And
well, it's like Sarah asked me, like, why are you obsessed with Miguel? I'm like, I saw Miguel, like I can literally say I saw Miguel Cabrera's first hit. Like I was a bat boy. Okay, this guy's a year and a half older than me. I'm about to go be a freshman in college. He's in the big leagues going deep. I'm his bat boy. And now he's like on he's gonna go.
No, it's like when I see guys that I play ball with, and I'm like, it's just nostalgia, but you're like, dude, I'm getting
that old.
He's my contemporary.
Well, I'm getting that old. It's people like, why you call him a kid? I'm like, well, to me, those guys are kids. But these kids, when they go into a city, again, we've had battles about this. And La Vida Baseball loves talking about food. Obviously, you guys can see me. I did not get like this because of hormonal issues. I actually have gotten like this over years of basically feeding myself very well. In my culture, big means that you're doing well.
And where we're from, it means if you're eating, that means that you're doing well, that you're making money.
So I grew up like you eat everything in your plate, but I love Latino food. And when I say I love Latino food, so this is why I love Latino food, okay? When you live in Venezuela, you will never have Puerto Rican food, Bolivian food, Peruvian food. You're only having Venezuelan food. And, of course, the all-American cheeseburger.
Or pizza
once in a while. Fast food's everywhere. So growing up, okay, when you come to the States, obviously now there's a million Venezuelan restaurants because of the situation in Venezuela. So there's a lot more Venezuelans here, which is cool. So I can go eat at a restaurant with my kids. They'll have a different upbringing. But when you're here, okay, and you're Latino, you go to restaurants that are Hispanic. So we grew up going to Mexican restaurants, okay, Puerto Rican restaurants, Dominican restaurants, Puerto Rican restaurants. So our taste for Latino food is very wide. And also, when you go to cities on the road and you're with Latino players love eating Latino food.
Yeah, it's a very weird thing. Like, Latino players will get to Boston and they'll start asking the concierge, like, where's their Latin food? And the concierge is like, here. And they'll go to Kansas City.
Yeah.
Where's their Latin food?
I've been to places. We drove an hour once in Ohio, and we found a Dominican restaurant that was like in the middle of like somewhere on the outskirts of Ohio.
And I'm like, and my dad's totally opposite. My dad always went the Asian route. My dad's always looking like, where's the sushi? And this guy's eating sushi in Boston.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I'm very like picky about like, okay, like if I'm in Seattle, I want seafood. To me, I love.
So I love eating Latino food in the major cities.
Chicago
would
be New York.
New York.
I wouldn't mind getting Latin food in California.
Boston's got a good.
So if
I go California, Texas, I go with like the Mexican side.
Yeah, not the Latino. If you go to the West Coast, stick to Mexican food. Like I don't want an arepa, which is a Venezuelan dish. I don't want an arepa in Cincinnati, Ohio.
So now the arepa though. Obviously, if it's a nostalgic place because you're there and there's fans and they bring you stuff, that always happens. But for me, the Puerto Rican food in Chicago, Humboldt Park, La Bruquena, okay, it's actually the place that's been there the longest.
And MLB, you walk into that restaurant and you got all MLB has been there. Like all these guys, all the Puerto Rican players, when they get to Chicago, they'll go to La Bruquena. All Dominican players, when they come to Chicago, they'll go to Sofrito.
Sofrito, yeah.
All Venezuelan players, they'll go to Bien Me Sabe. Or what's the other one called? Rica. So Chicago now is very diverse.
So it's like the new New York. So New York, when you go in, we've made different choices of like tonight we will eat here. So I would say though, the best one obviously in the league, because it is like the oldest one, they have the most variety, is New York. New York is it's New York. The most underrated one though for Latino food is Boston. You people don't associate Latino with Boston. I don't know why.
Yeah, I don't know. Alex Cora has always told us like, hey, Boston's got really good Puerto Rican food. Big Papi's lived there for a long time. And Manny was there for a long time. There's good Latin food in Boston.
And obviously the gag goes to the nightlife culture. Again, where you want to go, you listen to the music, because this is the funny part.
As a Latino player, I would be in Miami. But Miami's more Cuban.
Yeah.
Miami, Chicago would be my two spots. Miami, Chicago, New York are my three spots.
So it's funny though, because when we were going out and we were partying with players, you weren't getting reggaeton in the mainstream nightclub. It wasn't cool.
You had to really go out of your way to clandestine places to hear Latin music. Now Latin music is very mainstream. Now you hear it, eating dinner at RPM, they'll play some Bad Bunny. So now it's great to be a Latino player because you can go out with the mainstream places, nice places, and the crowd is up to par.
So the players though now it's changed. Okay, now you have the non-Latino players when they get to these cities. So before you never used to see Clubhouse cater Latin food. Now the players ask for it. Okay. Because you're like, what would you? So
that's what people are saying. American
hamburger helper.
Yeah. What do you want? Hamburger, hot dogs, whatever. No, the American players are like, hey, let's get some Latin food.
Yeah.
They love the rice. They love good chicken, good pork. They love a good spread, and that's the one thing that sometimes the clubby or whoever's in charge of the clubhouse, they'll say, hey, where can we get a good spread from? They'll say, all right, let's get a Latino food, and then they'll bring the Latino food. And the guys take plates to their hotel rooms or they take them home. So it's very, very important where these guys eat. Very
well. Obviously, food has made me hungry. It also has made me nostalgic. This week, Lance Lynn talked about him beating his team, the Cardinals, that he spent so many seasons with. I actually saw Tony, who now has beat every team in Major League Baseball. One of the only guys to ever do it.
Even beat the Brooklyn Dodgers.
Tony wins. Was there ever a win that you got nostalgic about that you're like, man, we beat that team, or like that you watched the game and you really wanted to beat them? Pretty much every day against you with the White Sox.
Pretty much. until Ozzy is employed by them
or number retired,
or they get his number retired. I have no idea why his number is not retired.
So I'm wondering
until they retire that number, I will for all. I mean, but I never want him to do well. Because I feel like he deserves his due. But when my dad was managing, I always felt great when they beat the Cubs. I was big on that because I would get I'd probably get drunk that night, probably get free drinks from whoever was bartending. Sox fans were feeling good.
By the way, mine's the opposite. So I've never enjoyed like an actual victory. I always used to love beating up on the Tigers, but Ozzy never. Again, maybe when he was the Orioles, but there was a victory. Well, a player got to come back. Frank Thomas got to come back to the south side of Chicago, and he embraced us going deep. I think twice.
John Garland.
Off of John Garland.
I was there.
And I was even though that I was translating for Contreras and I was on the opposite dugout, I felt joy
for him doing well.
For Frank. And I think Ozzy, I think a lot of guys too. I think a lot of guys were there were like, you know what, good for you, Frank.
Yeah, I mean, Frank was a well-loved guy inside the clubhouse.
So I think the first one was fun, and then the second one, you're like, hey, you're
stop. I also enjoyed when the Sox beat up on the Cardinals and Tony was managing in interleague play. I really enjoyed that because it was like Tony versus Ozzy, and then Duncan was there.
You know what I'm enjoying right now? I'm really enjoying the Astros beating up on the Dodgers.
I actually don't like the Astros, so that's another team that I take pleasure in seeing them lose.
By the way, word of advice, okay? I saw this past weekend, and I want to talk about it and not want to show the video. But if you're a fan, okay, and you think that you're going to get into a fist fight,
man, there's a lot of brawls.
As a grown man, there's a Dodgers fan out there. I don't care if you're a Dodgers fan, whatever. If you think that you're leaving your house, there might be a chance that you might get into a fist fight.
Don't wear flip-flops.
Well, number one, don't wear flip-flops. Don't bring your kid. The little girl's crying in the picture.
Then hold my kid.
This guy is fighting. He's an idiot. He's wearing a Dodgers jersey in Houston. What do you think was going to happen?
You know, I think that when you skip now, the Dodgers Astros are a rivalry. The Giants, Astros, Yankees, Boston. You got to go out there. You got to Sox, Cubs. People get drunk early. Anything said, hey, sit down, blah blah, and people start exchanging words. I know this year, Sox, Cubs, fights will break out. That's what happens. And these games are at 7 o'clock. People are tailgating at like noon.
So that's what I'm talking about. So a lot of fights, again, unwritten rules. Okay, we're going back to the unwritten rules about fighting. Okay, because again, talking about fights in stadiums, unwritten rules. Teams get testy. Okay, all it's gonna take is for even though we let people celebrate, all it's gonna take is for Altuve to do a fist pump. Okay,
and then get drilled.
He'll get drilled. I have a question. What would the fans do? The unwritten rules thing, the unwritten rule world of baseball. If Altuve goes like this, like he's doing a buzzer, when he gets to hit a double. I'm being serious though. Like no one's gonna get at this point. No one's getting suspended. Well, at this point, no one's getting suspended. A guy that played on the Rockies said that the Rockies cheated. Major League Baseball pretended nothing. So nothing's gonna happen.
The Cardinals manager said that they're cracking down on the wrong thing.
Well, the Cardinals manager is right. Pine tar on your hat. Okay, if you're wearing the same hat, the pine tar and the rosin bag combination with the sweat and all that.
That's like peanut butter and jelly.
That's like peanut butter and jelly for baseball. It's like chewing gum. It's like sunflower seeds. He's saying, why are you coming after these guys with pine tar? We know we all use it. When there's other guys in the league using stuff that's not the pine tar. And that's talking about Vaseline inside the mouth, Vaseline jalapeno inside your nose, Vaseline like behind your neck.
Trash cans.
So people get confused. The only way to cheat is not the pine tar. The pine tar with the rosin bag and the bullfrog, that's a grip grabber. Okay? The reason the guy got fired from Anaheim. That's to create a grip grabber. Yeah. There's other things. There's something people are like. It's so hard that people can't make a difference. There's stuff to put on the ball for grip, and there's stuff to put on the ball so it goes like a yo-yo.
When you play baseball, nobody uses a super white ball.
No,
you need to rub it down. You need to put a little dirt on it to make the pitcher like Kevin Pillar got hit the other day. Those guys need something. The ball sometimes slips out of your hand, and if those guys need an extra grip, especially when it's cold. That's totally fine. No one that actually plays the game cares about it.
Well, and that's why he didn't kick him out. People are like, how come they grabbed the hat and they didn't kick him out? The rule says that you can't have substance in your hat. Obviously, that was a moment that if I was every other manager, every time the White Sox guy went out there, I'm going to check his hat. I'm doing it every single time. And then people are going to say, those are unwritten rules because technically you're not supposed to do that.
There's unwritten rules. You saw that brawl that happened in the minors.
Well, in the minor leagues, again, a little scuffle. A guy said something to somebody else. Again, there's things in baseball that you can't say. And again, there's unwritten rules, and we've talked about it on La Vida Baseball Live on Wednesday, that are there for a reason. Okay? And people think that no one even remember the 3-0 was a big deal because it obviously never happened until that one time. There's rules that are there. Obviously, the celebration one, we are done with. There's people taking selfies, okay, until somebody gets mad. You know who's the funniest written rule writer, breaker, but the guy who fights the most when they break them?
Who?
Yadier Molina. Yadi's done the executioner. He's done the dance. He's also gotten into fist fight because he doesn't like something when they're showing him up. So players are humans. Your little heart gets hurt because we're talking about this in an emotional game. Okay, when there's a battle between two teams playing, something can set something off, and then players are going to retaliate, and they're going to break double plays. They're going to throw each other. So this whole like unwritten rule thing of the media thinking they're going to control players.
It's been around. It's been around forever, and these fights happen in the minor leagues, and sometimes it's scary. I remember I was there for the Cubs-Sox fight when AJ got hit in the face.
When the Cubs got beat.
Yeah, and then all you feel is just fists being thrown, like flying. I was in the dugout like this, and I'm watching the fight go down, and I'm like, this is crazy. Which later, I remember Ryan Dempster said that we, Ozzy's kids, were on the field throwing haymakers. I said, are you nuts?
I still think that he was joking, and obviously Chicago media took it serious.
Okay, are you nuts? I was literally on the rail like this, like these guys are fighting. I've been involved in a million fights in the dugout, but I am watching.
But first of all, if I was an MMA, like if I was like a mixed martial artist,
I was there for Nolan Ryan.
If I was a mixed martial artist, okay, or if I was 6'4", if I was Osme, if I knew that I was going to go in there and there was going to be some damage being done, of course I go in there. I go in there as an enforcer. You think I'm going to go in there and embarrass myself of getting?
No, it's just funny because I'm like, if you guys have actually seen a baseball fight up close, it's like a street fight. It is very scary.
It's dangerous.
It's very dangerous. There's cleats. There's people being
I've never in my years of baseball, I've had college ones. I never threw a punch. I came from the school of let's separate because there's guys that get wild. I remember in the Cubs fight, the guy that I grabbed was Jose Contreras because obviously I'm his translator. And Jose, if you're on a fight and you're not in the roster, if you're on the disabled list, you get suspended, you get fined. So I grabbed him. I said, no, you can't fight. You can't fight. Obviously,
listen, the best thing to do, just do what Ozzy Guillén does in a fight. Grab somebody and move out of the way.
Yeah, grab somebody, move out of the way. Because again, you always remember a couple things. You remember your first KO that you got,
and you're on camera.
That's what I'm saying.
If you get clocked, it's
every time I want to get mad at a White Sox player, I just watch the Detroit fight. I still knock Frank for that. They didn't protect his players. Maglio.
Like A-Rod against Veritek, I never forget that.
A-Rod against Veritek.
A-Rod said, come on, let's go. Veritek left his mask on.
He was smart, but you never forget your first KO or your first fight when you charge.
Or your first love.
But you just like you don't forget your first day in the big leagues. You know, your first hit. And you know, that always the first call up. And obviously, you know, we've been there for a couple call-ups in the big league game.
They always ask for the ball.
Sometimes it comes months later.
Yeah, some guys. Well, Miguel Cabrera, we were talking about. Miguel got his first big league hit his first day in the big leagues. Other guys have to wait weeks.
Well, some
guys make their debut.
What was his name? Molina?
Yeah.
The Venezuelan kid.
Gustavo Molina.
It took a month.
And he kept playing. I'm like, this guy, he might not get a hit. They might send him back down. He might not get a hit. Listen, your first big league hit is unbelievable. I remember my first professional hit. It was in Bluefield, Tennessee against the Orioles. First at bat.
Was it off a position player?
No, first at bat. I was leading off. First at bat. First pitch. I was so anxious. I hit a ball down the left field line. I slide in the second and I pop-up slide. Like slide in, dust off, and I went like this to the dugout. I seriously, in my mind, thought, we got 60 games. I'm going to hit 30 doubles. I think I ended up with 3.
By the way,
I ended up with 3 because your first one, you're like, this is going to be a great year.
How bad was that team that you were leading off?
I was leading off to start the year. I didn't end the year that way.
By the way,
but I'm like leading off, playing second.
The last they fooled you.
First, I ripped it down the line.
Is that coach still in professional baseball?
And Bobby Thigpen. And then it felt so cool. They brought my glove to because I was stranded on second. They brought my glove out. I took my flags off, and I was like, "This is professional baseball." I was like, I saw myself as the next Pete Rose. Little did I know I'd end up.
By the way, the funny thing is though that it was Bobby Thigpen managing.
Yeah,
that's why you were leading off. That explains.
Yeah. Well, you know. Being in professional baseball and you see all those things, like now I wish I would have videotaped it more.
Oh, of course.
I wish I would have cherished it more because, you know, it's something cool that, you know, that you got to do and it's there forever.
No, you take stuff for granted. So I love it because a lot of guys when they get to the big leagues, they try to act cool.
Yeah, and you know what
I'm saying? Like, they try to act like they,
because these guys have been in minors, and it's a shame when guys like you're mean. I bet you Yermin wasn't, being that guy in the minors. He was playing independent ball.
That's what I'm
like. So it's like guys get to the big league sometimes, and their ego gets the best of them, and they blow up, and they're not the same guy that you used to see, go poop in a box. So everyone changes. But
I love the fact, like, when a guy comes in, like, it's okay to feel. I love when a guy comes in.
You should be confident.
That's what I'm saying. Like, you should be confident. But I love when a guy comes in and he's taking it all in. My favorite one is like when you fly into Fenway or New York. Okay, there's a lot of guys that are from that area, or you go to the stadium where you grew up watching a game.
That's
the guys go down to the clubhouse.
Oh, they're taking pictures.
They're
walking.
I thought it was hilarious because my first time, I'm like, what is it with these guys going to center field and seeing like the statues in Yankee Stadium?
That's awesome.
And I remember John Dings talking about like New York is overwhelming, and here's me, like an idiot, thinking like, why is John Dings?
He's from Texas.
This guy's from Texas. He's never been in New York.
Yeah.
I'm here being like,
I remember.
I'm saying being mean. I'm like,
there's two places that you in baseball: old Yankee Stadium, the new one that ain't Yankee Stadium, the old Yankee Stadium, and I remember the Sox beat the Red Sox in Fenway Park in a playoff series. When you walk into a place like that, like Fenway Park, and you actually, if you do like baseball, you're thinking that's the same park that Ted Williams played.
Correct.
That's the same park that Carl Yastrzemski played. You go into the outfield and you're sitting there. You're in you don't understand until you're there. You're watching the game. I was sitting there and I'm like, I'm watching a playoff game in Fenway Park, and I'm like right here from the dugout. And Manny Ramirez just went deep, and the place is rocking. And then I've also witnessed it from the stands. Like even the seats are different at Fenway.
Yeah.
They're old, and like you just walk there.
And there's a lot of guys that are irrelevant to all that. They don't care, but there's a lot of guys that
historic, like real.
Like there's guys that love the game of baseball that played. That to
you
them.
Need to tell me when you went to Yankee Stadium, like you went to World Series.
Oh,
you went to old Yankee Stadium, and you're in Yankee Stadium. You're like, this is the same place. Lou Gehrig, Babe Ruth, Roger Maris, Mickey Mantle. You're there. You're like, crap. And like the guys announcing, Bob Shepard's playing the New York song, and you're there. You're like, there's so much history here. You're like, this is crazy.
And that can be a positive or a negative because there's a lot of guys that. And Ozzie, when there's a young team of like, let your emotions go through. Don't pretend that you're okay if you're not. Take a breather. You might there's times that you might have to take an at bat in a stadium or a situation when you've never been there. Okay, and you call timeout. Like there's only been so Jose Godoy was the 20,000th baseball player to be called up to the big leagues. He happens to be Venezuelan. Okay, which is really cool. I've been around this game for a long, long time. I'm going to be 37 years old. And I had no clue that there had only been 20,000 MLB players that have played in the big leagues.
I swear to God, if you would have asked me, I would have said millions.
They cannot even fill. There's more fans at Rays games than there is guys in the big league. So that makes you think, like, even for those guys that.
Wait, 28,000 for the year.
No, 20,000 fans in one moment.
No. Godoy was a 28,000.
For a lifetime in the history of baseball.
Isn't that nuts?
That's
nuts. That is absolutely nuts.
By the way, and I'm not even going to be mean. I was like, can we look for the number before segregation and then after? Because obviously there was a point where you couldn't play if you were colored. So if you do the number for colored players,
way less.
You're like in a 1% of a 1%.
So think about that, and we love baseball. Before we sign off here on being Guillén, think about how special it is to not only be a pro, to be in the show.
To be in the show.
Like you could be in the show for one day.
I'm talking about coaching and about managing. And this is where I felt the biggest punishment that Mickey Callaway could have gotten. Okay? Is the fact that he is suspended.
He's on
ineligible list. He cannot be with a big league team. Can't be with anybody right now. But I'm saying his chances of going back to Major League Baseball,
very slim.
Being a bad boy are very slim. So that moment that you have in the highest level of the industry, it is very hard to, like, not everyone is like Sparky
That's
Anderson.
why I always tell, before we jump off, I always tell Ozzie, I always tell people that lived it, I said, yeah, you might never come back in the game, and that's a crappy way to go out because you deserve better, but you also got to live 25 plus years of being in the best.
Manny Acta says it best.
Like
Manny
you
Acta,
are
like on Twitter, he said, I
it.
got to manage in the big leagues. There was a point that I was like, I just want to get the shot. So when people go out there like, oh, you need to get hired, there's 32 spots. You know, you might be reelected for government, or you can run for, like, there's the position when you're in major, and that's the same thing for a player. So there's 26 roster spots. So for guys to be playing, even if it's the Orioles and we make fun of them,
you're in.
It's the Pirates, you're in Major League Baseball. Wrapping it up here on Being Guillén, your favorite part of the show, obviously the Guillén Guaranteed. It's us versus El Adivino. You lost a 16-17 game parlay. What do you got?
I'm gonna keep.
What do you got?
I'm gonna keep it. You always think I bet against the Sox. This weekend the Sox are playing the Orioles. They're coming off. They're not hitting. I'm gonna take the Sox winning 2 out of 3 against the Orioles. That is my first play, and I do everything money line. So I would parlay the Sox, and then I would parlay. I have it written down right here, and then I would also parlay where is it? Yes, the Indians are playing the Blue Jays. The Blue Jays can rake. The Indians can pitch. I'm going to take the Blue Jays. I'm sorry because I want Peekaboo to do well. I'm going to take the Blue Jays over the Indians 2 out of 3 as well. So that's the White Sox and the Blue Jays 2 out of 3 in both those series.
So we can keep those series. I'm going to go around the same boat, but I'm going to do this. Any of the starting pitchers, okay, that are pitching for the White Sox will have more than 5 strikeouts in their start.
That's a good
against the Orioles.
So listen what you do. It's prop bet. You take the money line, and then you put whoever starter, and I believe it's going to be Giolito, Cease, and someone else. Just take the over on the strikeouts. They're not going to set it at 9 or 10 or 8. It's going to be 5 or 6. You take the over on the strike.
It's the biggest strikeout year in baseball.
And bet it. Everyone is striking out like crazy. Take the over on the strikeouts and take the Sox.
Most overrated bet, the home run bet.
Oh, yeah, because
everything's dead.
And everything, but also this bet, it's so juicy because it's plus 600, plus 700.
Yeah, but it's hard to hit.
But hitting's hard.
So the Ks are easier, but I'm going to take that one and do the same, okay, for the Blue Jays game. I think there's going to be a lot of strikeouts. So those are the game guarantees for over the weekend. Ping us on Twitter, on Instagram, on the social media. We will hopefully have Ozzy back for next week if he makes it back from Florida on time. But I feel bad for Mr. One Guillén and us, our great leader and manager of the Real Madrid. Jesus Zidane is going, he's retiring. He's stepping down from Real Madrid, but he might go coach another team. But I know it was a hard moment, but I wanted to end the show with that because I know it was a tough one.
And happy Memorial Day.
Enjoy it. Thank you.
Everyone, enjoy it. Drink, be safe, grill, do what you got to do.
Be safe. I'm not going to tell you to wear a mask. I don't think you have to.
Not if you're vaccinated.
Not if you're vaccinated. So have a good one. Have a happy Friday, and hope to see you guys soon.